Welcome everybody to the Colorado Board of Zoning Appeals. Appreciate everybody coming. Just want to remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded, so don't want to say something, don't say it, or don't want to record it. And just like to ask, we don't have a big crowd, but keep your phones silent. Thanks for reminding me, Barry. Yeah. Thanks. That sounds good, mate. Everybody call me and everybody's coming back. I hear you. I got one for you, Buck. And everybody will stand by the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Secretary.
Mr. McManaway.
Present.
Mr. Melchin.
Present.
Mr. Osborne.
Present.
And Mr. Christ is present. Let's recognize that Building Commissioner Steve Gorski is here.
Moving on, as everybody had a chance to look at the minutes from the previous meeting, which was June 15th. If so, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the June 15th. I'll second it.
That first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Things. First case is hearing for 2023-B07. Notice hereby given that petition has been filed by Arm Craig and Trade. To approve the variance from the property located at 110 North Front Street. Telephone number. For a variance, for special use variance for your yard setback of 10 feet.
Yes.
Present what you're.
I can show you right out the window.
Right.
No, I,
For the record.
for the record, to have the shed in 25 feet from the property line by the sidewalk, it would put it right in the middle of our yard, and it would be an eyesore for not only us to look at, but people who are walking by. And it's just, for us, it's just, it wouldn't look nice, and we want our home to look nice. We're new to the neighborhood, and we're trying to do the best we can right now. We've got to wait till September 4th before we can have a fence put up. In the meantime, we've got this horrible mobile looking fence that you set up. Looks absolutely horrible. I went over and apologized to my neighbor. That's just to keep our dog in. So we're pretty self-conscious about how our own looks.
But the only reason you want to move it
Yeah.
10 feet back is for purpose of thinking it's better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely, because it would interfere almost like the center of our yard, and we want that space to be open. We have a dog, and we're gonna have grandkids who come over, and, we want them to use that space. And to move it over that much, it's just not as good. The condominiums that are on the other side of the sidewalk, their parking garage is actually 2 feet from their property line. It just, I don't know, it just doesn't seem fair and consistent to me.
You said to construct a storage building.
Yes. Well, it's already made. All they have to do is just put down the pod, and they'll bring it right over.
Okay. If it was a delivery.
Yeah,
Not built on.
exactly.
How much room will there be from the east end of the storage building to the beginning of the trail there that runs behind your property?
Well, there's, right now, what they're asking, or what they're stating is it has to be 25 feet.
Yeah, I understand.
But what I'd like it to be, what would be acceptable to us would be 10 feet.
Okay, so, but my question is, the east end of your storage building, how far, that's gonna be 10 feet?
10 feet from the neighbor. 10 feet.
And then the fence will be where? In relation to that? Will it
It's-
be right alongside the,
It's gonna be right on the property line.
right on the property line?
Yeah.
So in essence, it'll be right up to the edge of the trail, the concrete trail that's there.
Right, we ordered the fences that match our neighbors, so that it's all white and it looks nice. You know, that's again, I mean, how our home looks.
Oh, and it would give you a little bit of protection if people veer off that.
It's more for the dog, I'm not worried
Well,
about it.
but I mean,
Yeah.
you know, for the dog, won't get on the walkway, and people on the walkway won't start.
Well, it's also, it's a heavily traveled, both paths are pretty heavily traveled.
Yes, I know, yeah.
Yeah, so.
And the fence is going to be, do they have to have a permit to put up a fence?
Fence are putting up, they'll have a permit, but there's no variance needed for it.
And it'll comply with the standards about fences.
Yes.
Okay.
They've already got permit approved for that, right?
Yeah, with Don, I forget his last name.
You might say for that specifically, you have a permit approved for any fence.
I have just a little bit of problem with it, though, because I know it is R2, am I correct? Yes, R1.
This was, you're R2. They're
R2. And I know with the ordinance calling for the 25 feet on R2. You know, it's 25 feet for a reason, you know, as far as the setbacks. I know
What is the reason? Is there a
there's
state?
clearance in the back and the front yard, it's always been that. It's like you're 25 feet from the street. 25 feet.
I'm not seeing a lot of consistency when I walk around. Our house is like right on the sidewalk. The front of it. That doesn't make sense to me, but we
No,
bought it
But I mean,
anyways.
that was probably there prior to
Right.
ordinances. But with the ordinances, I mean, you're saying you're already, according to the ordinance, not that it was when it was built, but you're already approaching that setback that would have been required for the house. Correct? But it's too close to the street. According to ordinance, not saying you'd have to move it. Don't get me wrong here, I'm not trying to say that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that you have adequate space to meet the 25-yard setback. And I know what you're asking for, but under Board of Zoning appeals, I mean, there's usually got to be hardship or a problem with whatever that would be, you know.
The only hardship is that we have to live with it and look at it every day and not like it. And we need storage. The thing is, we don't have a garage. We have no storage. Everything's outside. I mean, my lawnmower, everything. That's the hardship right now. We need the storage. The other piece of this that I didn't mention is that we plan on putting on an addition to the house. And if the shed is 25 feet from the property line going towards the house, it's gonna run right up on the addition where we plan on having it. And we plan on having it on the west side of the house, because we've got 6 kids, all adult children who are gonna want to visit. We only have one spare room. It's a small house.
I know, I live in them as well. But,
So why don't you wait till you do your addition and incorporate this garage into that?
The thing is that,
Because-
no, the addition, we couldn't get a contract until next spring anyways. We need storage now.
Right.
I mean, that's the issue for us, really.
but the storage unit that you're putting here, you're saying you're put the pad that's gonna be delivered and set on.
Yeah.
It is movable.
I-
Correct.
I don't, yeah, it's,
Is this one of the storage units that we see alongside the roads for sale? Drive by, some of the
It's- it's-
portables set there.
it's run by Sunrise, it's a.
I mean, they put it on a trailer, they pull it out there and unload it.
Well, you can buy them that way, or they can build them. And we just happened to see the one on the lot that we liked. And so we have a down payment on it, but depending on how this goes, we decide whether or not we're gonna get it.
But it's not on a concrete pad. They just put gravel down.
It's gonna be gravel, yeah.
Okay,
So it could be instead.
so it could,
Very, very easy.
I mean, it's not on a foundation, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. It's not got a foundation in the ground, it's movable. And if we give you a variant to put it back there, you can actually come back and put it in the ground with a foundation. That would be a permanent fixture, permanent structure on your yard. And the variance that we'd be giving would allow that variance to be there forever. But you're building addition onto your house, and as Mr. Osborne said, you know, you're putting the shed there because you don't have one, but then you're gonna build later. I don't see the hardship where that variance could be pushed
I
back.
would come take a look at the back of my yard,
It wouldn't change for the variances come.
but you'll see that I don't have storage,
I know,
and we need that.
I know. But you still have the storage if you moved it 25 feet.
Right, but, so what are you suggesting that we put it 25 feet from the property line, build our addition and then move it back?
I'm not
To- to
suggesting
10.
anything. I'm just saying that doing that would solve your problem, but it wouldn't be a hardship either way, where you'd have to put it 10 feet from it.
I'm having a hard time, when I walk around the neighborhood, I'm having a hard time seeing consistency with the rules here. I just don't understand what the 25 feet, what that's for. That's not a safety issue. That doesn't do anything for anybody.
Right. And we could argue the point and discuss where the ordinance is set, where it should be changed or not, but that's not the issue. I mean, we're looking at, everybody has to deal with the same ordinance as 25 feet setback on R2
I don't
property.
see it. I don't see it. I walk around this town and I don't see
But
it.
this town is 100-something years old. A lot of these places have been done prior to our ordinances.
So
When the ordinance was created, anybody who puts anything after that ordinance is in place, they have to follow that same ordinance.
why would anybody make an ordinance like that? 25 feet.
We don't think the ordinance, I don't think this question itself was written and was
Yeah.
a step back.
I mean, why it was done. And what we're looking at is why we would deviate from what it calls for.
I'm wondering why that rule's in place.
Well, this is not the point for that kind
Yeah.
of discussion. The
I'm
rule,
looking for some logic
the
here.
rule,
That's what I'm looking for.
The logic is everybody, the reason you came before this for a variance,
Let's do it.
and everybody else would have to come through the same variance for the same thing.
Right.
And if there's not, I mean, there's been cases where it might be topographical or whatever because of where water comes through the yard or excess because of the terrain, whatever it is, might create a hardship. But if somebody comes in just because they don't like to look for something else or a neighbor and want something changed, it's not us up to decide something's gonna look bad, something's gonna look good.
Mhm.
All we can look at is why you would need it 10 feet instead of 25. And we're not seeing the need as far as according to the ordinances, or I'm not.
What kind of need would you be looking for? I mean, it's really
I'm
hard
I'm
to,
looking for the need that you have. I'm
it's
not trying to give you a need. I'm trying to find a need.
right. And I feel like I'm giving you my needs, but they're not, as important. Or, I mean, like, you're right. It's not a horrible hardship. It's nobody's, dying from this, but.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
just,
in simple terms, we as a board are to give any a variance because of some reason, like a hardship or whatever, that would create you not being able to follow that 25-foot requirement. And I don't feel like we're getting a hardship that would require that. I mean, and anybody else that come up for the same thing, we have to do the same thing. Because if we just give it because somebody likes it or somebody else likes it, we really wouldn't even need it for the zoning fees. Just
Like I said, it's gonna interfere with the back of our yard. It's gonna interfere with the addition that we someday want to have. It's just gonna look awful.
But it can be moved.
But that's, what's the point of that? Moving it when you can already have it in place where it's supposed to be. I'm supposed to do that after the fact. That's a hardship right there. If you ask me, if I gotta move it after.
But this is not a permanent structure. You've already told us that. And the reason that you see things that appear to be not in conformity with the current zoning laws is because those properties were erected prior to the zoning ordinance. So those properties are grandfathered in as they were built.
I
Okay,
get that.
and
I get that.
if it appears that that house is relatively new, you can rebuild as long as you rebuild on the same footprint that was there. So that addresses those issues where you see things that might not be in compliance by just plain observation. Okay, anything that needs to be done subsequent to the zoning orders would have to comply. And exemptions can be given for hardships, as Mr. McManaway said. Perhaps it has to do with topography, that if you put it according to code, there would be water flowing into it because of how the land goes. That's not present here.
No.
As I look at the map that's here,
Mhm.
Your rear yard setback is 10 feet, is what you're requesting.
Right,
Okay, well, you know that there's side yard setbacks of 10 feet.
right.
Okay, and so I look at the picture that's here, where there looks like there's an outline of where the storage barn would go.
That's a rough outline.
I don't see any reason why that storage barn couldn't be moved 15 feet to the west, so that it is now 25 feet from the rear property line, and it's 10 feet from the side. And as I look at the picture here, I'm assuming that the storage barn is, if it's the scale for the picture, it looks like that storage barn is 20 feet wide by close to 15 feet deep. So moving it 15 feet to the west, I don't see how it's going to be in the middle of your yard for this picture.
No, not by that picture. That's not a good representation. I mean, that's a rough drawing.
Well,
if I outlined it for you in the backyard and showed you, you would see where it is, and it's just not. You know, it's tough to buy a new home and have a property and not be able to put things where you want them, where you feel that they would, look nice. And I just go back to who came up with the rule of 25 feet? I don't know, and why.
Yeah.
And I know we can't do that here, but
Yeah, I do, and I appreciate what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying. And believe me, I've been in the same shape, but I couldn't do it either. But it was because of the rules. I mean, I can't say anything other than, yes, I see no reason to give that 10-foot setback on this property, and I probably wouldn't do it for somebody else either, and I don't want to show favoritism, and I'm not being prejudiced to you at the same time.
I don't feel that like that. I feel like you're following the rules, like you say, it's the rules, but again, it's like, well, sometimes the rules aren't always
Right. I could agree we think the rules are wrong, but I have nothing to do with the rules either at this meeting.
So you said that if you moved it to 25 feet, they would impede your view?
No, it just,
Okay.
it wouldn't look nice. It'd be more centered towards towards the yard, the middle of the yard, and we want that space to be open. Plus, it would interfere a little bit with the addition that we want to add. So
What if you moved it up to like the edge? From this drawing, I can't really tell much, you
No,
know?
it's just kind of.
I mean,
a good rock
and
placement.
usually on the applications, people get pretty specific on what they want and, you know, like, you know, what the hardship is and all that. I don't have that information in front of me. So what I'm going off of is what you're telling me here. And, you know, if you moved it to the edge of where your home is now, I mean, I don't know if that's 25 feet or where that would be, but, you know, is that a possibility? I mean, to make it so it wouldn't impede with any additions that you make to your home, but still be, you know,
But if,
aesthetically pleasing to you.
but if we do move it in 25 feet, that's a
Now, I'm
lot.
not saying, is that 20, I don't know, I can't tell from this where that would be.
That is where we'd like it to be 10 feet by 10
But
feet.
I understand that, but if you moved it up further to the edge, then where would that be? Would it be 20 feet? Or 20, you know, or 18? I don't know. That's why it's just not specific enough for me to really figure out what, you know, trying to help you out in any way, because
Right.
to me, and we're getting back to this whole hardship thing, and it's just not strong enough for us to, at least for me, to be convinced that I need to give you a variance for that. That's the problem I have with it. So I think that, you know, maybe you need to go back and look at this and decide, hey, can I do something different to satisfy us that we would give you a variance to do it? That's my opinion.
No, I mean, it's difficult to tell based on how big is the actual barn itself?
It's gonna be 16 by 12. So,
So I mean, it's really hard to tell, like, without scale,
mhm.
what that looks like in this backyard.
Yeah, I just don't see what it hurt, but
Anybody?
Jeff Mansfield, it's 22 late.
We don't know, what is your name? I've never seen you.
Yeah, I haven't been here a little bit.
No, okay, Jeff, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Zoning code, section 6, like 010, has a definition of accessory structures. If you look at that definition, it includes storage sheds. And it further says in Article D, that unless otherwise provided for within a given district, an accessory structure to a residential use may be erected in the rear yard area and shall be set back no less than 10 feet from the rear lot line and the no less than 10 feet from the interior side lot line. Why doesn't this apply in this
I
case?
can answer that. So to start with, the first sentence says unless otherwise provided for,
In a given district, because it's R2.
and
or
it's,
25.
the distance is provided for in the zoning ordinance itself. In fact, I had this discussion with one of the town lawyers yesterday. So on that specific paragraph you just read, so it is provided for, the distance is provided for in the zoning ordinance.
But that typically that distance is for the main structure, not the accessory structure.
It applies to accessory structures also.
does it say
Because
that?
it's the setbacks are specified in the ordinance.
But that doesn't specifically say accessory structures.
But the setback is in there. The setback applies to all the structures. As I said, I spoke to, town attorneys.
Or two.
I spoke to one of the town attorneys on this, and it is provided for in the zoning ordinance itself.
I'm just not bad, I'd like to do a little more research on that stuff.
As I said, I've gotten opinion from the town attorney already.
That's not meaning anything against you or what you said. Just for my personal self, I mean, because position, if that's correct, I don't know that that's been followed 100% in the past, since this ordinance. Anyway. But I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Thank you.
But you could still provide a variance over what's that setback. And I think this would probably give you some
Right, I don't think.
reasoning to do so.
Right, and you might be right on that, but I mean, are you saying that the ordinance itself is the hardship or the reason for that it should be permitted?
I'm saying that the ordinance,
Sherry, your camera's on.
the ordinances should be the reason it's permitted because it alludes to in there that a 10-foot by 10-foot is allowed in zoning district.
Less otherwise specified.
Well, I think, and what I would want to research is when you talk about a setback, is that setback for the principal structure or for all structures on the lot?
I mean,
Because I mean, by definition, then you couldn't put a swing set in there. You could put nothing in your last 25 feet of your lot. And I don't think that was the
A swing
intent.
set's not structure.
Yeah.
So we're talking
But I understand.
structure greater than 120 square feet.
I appreciate that. Very much.
I mean, we can. Anybody else in the public have anything? I do appreciate it. Do you have any comments? But I wonder anything. You know, this mean.
Hey, Barry,
Yes,
this is Doug Farmer. For everybody's purposes, could you make reference within the ordinance where it makes specific reference to hardship so that we can all understand the definition? What do you guys, when you're evaluating hardship, what are you using?
What's the definition of hardship?
hardship,
As it is in the ordinance itself? What section?
Hardship is in the ordinance in Article 13 under definitions. And I'm more than happy to read it. Paragraph. A hardship,
Please.
a difficulty with regard to one's ability to improve land stemming from the application of the development standards of this ordinance, which may or may not be subject to relief by means of a variance. In and of themselves, self-imposed situations and claims based on a perceived reduction of or restriction on economic gain shall not be considered hardships. Self-imposed situations include the purchase of land with actual or constructive knowledge that, for reasons other than physical characteristics of the property, the development standards herein will inhibit the desired improvement and improvement initiated in violation of the standards of this ordinance. Any results of land division requiring variance from the development standards of this ordinance in order to render the site buildable.
is there anything else online that he wants to address?
Does anyone else online have any questions or comments?
The one thing I heard was inhibit improvement. And that's what we want to do. We want to make an improvement to our property.
Anybody else have anything public? We can go to the findings of fact. And you. We don't want to go into finding of facts. I mean, we have the thing as far as, but finding facts, if there's anybody here that doesn't know on any of these things, finding facts, they would have to vote no. And so you would know probably pretty much the proposition and how the vote could go. And you withdraw before the vote if you wanted to, which would give you the option to come back. For, as Mr. Osborne said, if you want to look at any kind of options that you could have that would show that you could get other options, whatever, if you need to come back here, then you would have that opportunity to do that within the next month, whatever. If this does not go through on your variance, you'll have a year before you can go to it before.
Right, I don't know what else you're looking for. And because I'm hearing a lot of inconsistencies with the conversation.
So would you rather withdraw it?
Well,
Would you rather go to finding facts, or
I've already got the feeling that the vote's no, and I don't have to agree with it. I don't know if I can appeal it because it's just gonna come right back to this table right here. So,
To answer your question, it could be appealed.
and then where does it go? Does it come back here? And then I'm gonna hear this thing.
If it's appealed, it can go to the planning commission. They'll take care of the appeals for the BZA.
All right, well, so if I withdraw, I can appeal.
you can
If
appeal
the vote goes and it's unfavorable, you need to wait a year before asking for another variance.
Right, right. But if I withdraw.
If you withdraw now, you can request another variance at another time. Whether that be a month or 6 months.
Quite some fair enough. I'm disappointed. I was hoping for more, but, at this point, I really don't know if I care.
move forward to finding the facts. First thing on finding facts is general welfare. The approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, or morals, and general welfare of the community. Melton,
Agree.
Osborne,
Agree.
Chris, agree, and Chair agree. All right, to adjacent property, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Mr. Melton,
Agree.
Osborne,
Agree.
Mr. Chris,
Agree.
and Chair agrees. Practical difficulty. Strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. Situation shall not be self-imposed nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction on economic gain. Mr. Melton,
Disagree.
Mr. Osborne,
Disagree.
Chris,
Disagree.
and the chair disagrees. So at this time, it's your option right now. If you want to go ahead and take the vote, we will. If you want to withdraw, now's the time to do it.
You gotta have an idea what it's going, so I'll withdraw.
Withdraw. I think it's the best move, honestly, because I think we have other options on this.
Use some coaching. 'Cause I have no idea what you guys are looking for. I really don't. I wish I did.
If I can like those things. You have the sign minutes too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll get it back.
Yes.
We can put lines, names underneath them. Help for some. I don't have no.
Okay, our next hearing is 2023 B08. Notice is hereby given the petition has been filed by Rocky Mountain Concrete to approve a variance of use for the property located at 404 East Lake Shore Drive, Clover, Indiana. And parcel number 502-163-0133200004. Petition requests a special use variance for a rear yard setback of 10 feet. Rocky?
That'd be me.
Yeah. Would like to present. Yes.
Well, I've got the owner here too,
Would you state your name then, please?
Rocky Bachman.
Your address, please.
My address,
Yes, sir.
7924 West, 700 North. Culver.
7924 West.
Yes, 7924 West,
Uh-huh.
700 North, Culver, Indiana.
Present what you.
Okay, well, the Northrops was under the impression that if they joined their two lots together, that they were allowed a 10-foot setback to the north for their building that they wanted to put in. And so they joined the two lots because they were told that they could get a 10-foot setback. Once the two lots were adjoined, after $3,800 later, they denied it because it was too big. Yes,
So,
Yeah, would you
yeah.
state your name and?
yeah, I'm Susan Northrop at the property address. Is it on there? The property address?
Yeah.
Okay,
You're the owner of the
I
property?
am the owner. So when we purchased the home in 2020, there was a permit for a garage in the back of the lot. We, in hindsight, should have gone ahead and acted on it, but we were at that time house poor because we had just bought a house. So we weren't ready to do it, but thought that since there was a permit for a garage, a detached single car garage on the lot, which there is none, no sheds, nothing at this time. We thought, well, we'll just get another permit when we're ready. So we had worked with Chuck DeWitt on part of our inspection of structural integrity. And I had him, when he was acting commissioner, come back out to our property to look at it. This was in October of last year. And because, if you don't mind, can I pass around pictures? Is that okay? Okay, this, I think, helped quite a bit. Here's Steve, right?
Yes.
So, you can see right here on the edge of the driveway to the east was a separate lot. So it looks like that when we read that. These are aerial views I'll talk about in a second, but, so we had Chuck come out, and at the time, I think it was his last week here. There had been a change to the zoning, the setback allowance for an R1. It had gone from 25 feet to 10 feet. So he let me know that. So we thought the only issue we had was if we put a garage in, it would cover both of the lots that were separate, or at least be at the edge of the first lot. So we would have 0 setback, right? Unless we joined them. If we joined them, then we had the 25 feet to work with, and we wouldn't really need a variance request because to the east, it's 10 feet anyway, right? The side lot. So Chuck advised us to join the lots together because then we would meet the east lot or the side lot variance. And we thought because of the change in October that he told me about had just been voted by the committee to change for an R1 to a 10-foot setback from a 25-foot setback. So we got a surveyor, Bernie Feeney, who replotted, joined the two lots together and replotted and presented here. And so it was actually $3,900 to do that. At the same time, we had Jenny Monroe, who at the time was the acting building commissioner, and she came out and confirmed that with us, that the rear yard setback for R1 had changed from 25 feet to 10 feet. So we thought all we had to do was pull permits because we were going to have Rocky do the driveway. He's done other work for us with town programs before and done a great job. We were going to have him do the driveway, and we had a builder that was going to put a simple one car 16 by 22 foot with a 12-foot pitch to pull an SUV in or put a golf cart in, right where it naturally looks like a garage should go. So we spent the money to replat the property. There was no other reason to do that for us financially, other than to avoid having to request a 0 variance or to cover 2 lots. So we made that investment based on 2 very knowledgeable people. And come to find out, when Rocky went to pull the permits, he contacted Steve. They had a conference call. You know, I talked to the Marshall County to Ty. He looked at it. He didn't know that the culvert setback had changed to the rear yard for R1, but he was defaulting to Steve. So I talked to Steve, and he said, well, now you went from a non-conforming lot to a conforming lot. And Jenny didn't realize that at the time, and evidently Chuck didn't either. So here we are with this initial investment, and, you know, are requesting the setback. This is an aerial view. You know, looking at I heard what you were saying before, and I've heard that you all recommend an attached garage. Why not do the 25-foot setback, and why not have it attached to your home? So if we did that, it would be at least double the expense of a single, easy, plug and play, unfinished garage. We're not heating it. We don't have water to it. We're just putting a car in it to keep it from the elements. But here is this. So if we put a garage right here, we'd have like a U-shaped yard instead of a place where you can play that and whatnot. So it would it would be really awkward and very expensive to do that. But I also wanted to show this to demonstrate that it would be in line with all the other garages at the back of this line here. There's nobody that goes through. Yeah. Uh-huh.
He couldn't even vote for you.
It's good.
So it's like, okay, and the same thing here. I'm just demonstrating here that across the street from us, all of the garages are to the, yeah.
We trust you for your country.
So again, we wouldn't have made the investment in the replat. It didn't affect us as we saw it any other way than to make sure we met the 10-foot variance to the east. We didn't think the rear variance to the north was a problem because we were told otherwise by people from the.
I was in that meeting when we combined it. I mean, I remember that,
Yeah,
but I know that at the time the combining was because it would be doing away with the non-conforming lot, so to speak, because that lot next that you combined.
Yeah.
The size. Am I correct?
But we didn't understand conforming versus non-conforming. I mean, Chuck had mentioned that all of you, the town was trying to clean these up because there's so many of them, but I didn't know that we were conforming or non-conforming. In fact, I had to get clarity on that yesterday because I don't know what a conforming versus non-conforming lot is.
All right, non-conforming lot is one that does not meet our ordinances.
Non-conforming lots based on square footage of the lot size.
So,
Okay. Okay, so now we have too much square footage.
right, but you got your, yeah, you're not conforming.
Now we're
Not
conforming.
conforming, so you can't get the non-conforming advantage is what I guess I'm trying to say.
I can add, as building commissioner, ordinances would allow me, if it's in front of a house, to keep a row of houses the same. It doesn't allow that on the rear for me to do that. But as I look at this, the neighbor next door's garage also
Is what?
was also back near their property line.
Well,
If
and
I look to the neighbor, two houses over to the east.
And the neighbor to the back is the one who would see it. His is there too, Dan Nagel. And he came over to our yard this last week and said, hey, we got the letter and I'm perfectly fine with it. So he's the only one that can really see it. The neighbor to our east has trees and fence, so they can't really see it. And we're on a corner, so the only one that really can see it is to our rear. And he has his garage there and it's. But it,
But was the garage and everything discussed during your discussion with Dr. Witt?
oh,
And did you
absolutely. We
know
had him come out specifically for the garage.
for the-
We showed him, that was the only reason he came out, was we want to put a garage back here. What requirements do we have? And he said, well, you used to need a variance request from 25 feet to 10 feet, but it just changed for R1. That was in October. And when I looked it up, it happened October 18th. Like you had literally just voted on it, or the plan commission or somebody
Right.
had just voted on it.
And approved by
To
the.
change it. He said, so you don't even need a variance request. So that's why we went ahead and tried to get the permits, because we thought we met them on both sides now.
When was it that you combined the property?
It was recorded on March 30th
Of
this year.
this year?
We started the process in October when he said, you know, here's some names of surveyors to call. So it just took a really long time to get it together. But and Jenny came out in March and confirmed it as well. And she would say that she didn't think about the square footage and conforming versus non-conforming, but she did confirm, oh yeah, you're in an R1. You can do this. So we had her look at that exact plot where it looks like it should go.
But you are saying that Dr. Witt and Jenny Monroe said that this, you could do this.
And that's why we did the replat. That's why we invested in joining lots together. That's the only reason we spent that investment to do that. I didn't know that, I mean, I was thinking those were the most credible resources, so I didn't.
And you, as far as on your side of it, then you waited till the time there was this other ordinance got approved, whatever, before you applied for the permit. Am I correct? And this is not, I'm not doing this to delay blame. I'm just trying to see the cycle of what had happened.
I don't know. I don't understand your question. Can you say it again?
All right, when Jenny and Chuck had told you
Separately, yeah,
separately. But when they told you that was, and you combined the property
yes,
after they suggested that,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it, but anyway, then you said you were waiting then before you applied for a permit, or you just bought the property, you were waiting, not to do the garage, whatever.
oh, yeah, so it's been 3 years. We kind of restocked the kitty to be able to do it now.
Do it.
You know, yeah,
So under your understanding, everything's still the same, that you could be able to do it.
yeah, absolutely.
I'm just trying to get the time.
Yeah,
here.
yeah. So in October, when it was approved for a 10-foot variance for R1, non-conforming, I know now, but I just thought it was in general R1. Chuck came out in October and said, good news, you know, it's only 10 feet. then in March, Jenny was at our property. And I had her go look at it and verify that. And we were gonna then contact the contractors, which we did. And so there was time in, kind of designing what the garage would look like, because we weren't gonna get one from Lowe's. We were gonna have a local contractor build it. So it took a little time. And then in June, right, June 12th, he was gonna start pouring concrete and he went to get permits. He didn't even know he needed a permit for the driveway. So we got a permit for the driveway and he went to get the permit for the building too. And that's when it came up that it was,
Good, now the ordinance will stop you from getting a permit.
because it's now conforming lot versus a non. So. So I'm here to request that there is.
Anybody else have anything?
I'm still trying to figure out what is the hardship. I mean, you heard the last case and
Yeah.
the gentleman we determined, at least I determined, he did not have a hardship. What is your hardship with this? And again, could you move it forward? Just because you don't want an L-shaped or a U-shaped lot?
A horseshoe yard would not be ideal, but it's also double the expense. I mean, we would have to reconstruct our home to attach to the garage. The garage would come to the home then.
At least what I'm looking at, it looks like there's this right here. It looks like there's plenty of room between the,
Okay, you have your own, okay.
this is where you propose to put it, right?
Well, that would be, so where you're looking at that's probably not 10 feet. So it would be about here. So it's a 16-foot, so the back of it would be about there. It actually, our rear yard property line is there, so it has to come out 10 feet from where you're looking.
Okay, so how far is it from your rear yard property line to your,
House?
yeah,
I don't know that, but I do know that if we put it 25 foot back, it would be here.
That's it.
I mean, like, what picture are you looking at?
Yeah.
This is
That, yeah. I didn't know about that one.
Okay, well, because I saw them pointing it up here and there.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're looking at the bottom picture and the red square,
The
correct?
red
Yeah,
square
that's
is
what I'm-
not
okay.
actually 10, it doesn't look like it's 10 feet off the property line because you can see the property line.
right.
It would have to be 10 feet forward of that, so that red box isn't exactly where,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It would be forward a little bit.
Be closer to the house.
Yeah, the 10, that doesn't reflect 10 feet from the back. So we'd be closer to the house already. So there's still room, but if you did 25 feet, then you would have like this little space between the house. You might as well, put it together. I don't know, would you put a garage there? I don't know.
Driveway in.
Question here, I guess.
No, we did a permit for that and was denied the permit for that, I believe. So
You were denied.
we need,
No,
you got your driveway permit?
well, I paid for the permits when I was up there, but then that's when they said, well, we can't. Cause it was the R1. And then that's when I had to come to you and say, okay, we got to get a variance.
Okay, so no, the driveway hasn't been done. They were gonna be done together. Cause he was gonna put a pad in for the garage.
But I applied for a driveway permit.
That's both.
Yeah.
So there's an existing driveway?
Not really. Did you see the,
Doesn't go all
it's
the way.
tire tracks and it's crumbling.
How'd this get put together? It's non-existent.
Fishing aerial view, right?
That's what it looks like to me.
Do you have the picture?
These are pictures off the beacon. They may not be, they may be.
But the
The
driveway's there, isn't it? Or is it just like
These
gravel?
pictures could be a couple, 2-3 years old.
That aerial picture, she had just got
Oh,
a
here,
bunch
here.
of trees.
There,
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, it's just a dump track, the grass.
It is a driveway.
Okay,
Well, it's a driveway, but it's not It's not concrete.
Well, it's
Well, it's got,
broken,
Pieces.
whatever it is, it's track here.
oh, so you're planning on, let me check that out.
Yeah,
You're planning on
It's
putting in a
antique.
completely new driveway from the street back. But you've not done that yet.
No,
And in order to do that, you would have to excavate the current driveway, correct?
yes.
Okay.
would that concrete actually require a permit?
So it's
already
gonna-
ratified.
Yes, it's tear off. and replace.
Why didn't that do?
If you want to know definition of a driveway is a private road that connects a house, garage, or other accessory structure with public right of way.
Well, it doesn't connect to either.
Now, come from the road into your property.
Okay.
But you're not required a variance for driveway.
Because it's flat,
Because it's
it's
flat,
ground level.
and it's
As long as you satisfy the pervious and
not
impervious.
satisfied with pervious.
And impervious.
Okay, what does that mean?
Pervious and impervious,
As long as you satisfy.
You have to have at least,
yeah, you have to be 50% pervious.
Which means
That means water can flow through it.
dirt,
Yeah.
burn,
Like dirt, grass is impervious.
not concrete,
Concrete's not, concrete's.
not the footprint of the structure of the building. The water cannot flow through a roof,
Right,
okay? It's gonna be diverted out to the land.
yes,
The land will absorb it. That's what pervious
Okay.
means.
okay,
Impervious means it cannot.
And gentlemen, if I might add, from the inside of her sidewalk, which would be to the north of the north end of the sidewalk out to the street, which is Lake Shore. They are in the shared program of the town of Culver and have been approved for that as well.
Okay. But it's not been constructed or destructed yet.
No,
because we really need to see, I mean, he needs to see what's happening here, before he's doing it.
Right, and we need to get back to that as well.
Thank you first.
I know, what I'm seeing right now, I mean, I don't compare one meeting to the other or one address to the other than same ordinance applies to every property, you know what I'm saying? Just because one's denied and the other one's approved doesn't, they're all looked individual. But I mean, you are looked at individuals,
You understand? that?
just because everybody's hardships are different. Anyhow. But what I was trying to find out, I guess in my mind, if you were already told and informed that this would already be, but then you combine the property and the town manager, interim building commissioner, as well as our building commissioner prior, told you that if the words were that if you combine that, then you can do it.
Yes,
And then later that we created the hardship because we changed the ordinance. I'm not saying we did or we didn't. I'm just saying the if part of it. Okay. I don't know where we stand on the aspect of a previous, I know we have before. Because a previous building commissioner authorized the person saying, well, and I haven't been in a situation with contractors before where I actually, planning commission president, had informed the contractors that they needed a variance for what they were changing doing. But a building commissioner at that time had told them they didn't need one. And I was told not to pursue it any further because the building commissioner had the authority or to consider having authority. In saying this is what I'm trying to say is if a prior, it may or may not, but I'm in a position where I'm looking at there was a hardship created as far as what your plans were originally due to what maybe what the planning commission did, because I naturally your property wasn't looked at when this ordinance was done, but other properties such as yours were. Now, on the other hand, Mr. Osborne making the same position on with the ordinance that it can be put back further toward the house if the ordinances. The only hardship I'm seeing there is because the closest of the garage to the house, which again, you could build the garage So where I'm standing right now, I see two sides. I'd like to have,
Would you want to confirm what the former building commissioner and
I would-
former
I would
town
like-
manager?
I've already-
Okay, so what's the story with that, Steve?
Jenny said she did give the wrong information.
wrong. And
That's what she said.
Yeah.
Rocky was on the call with me
when was this?
a few weeks ago,
A few weeks ago?
2 or 3 weeks
After
ago.
the
We
fact?
were denied the permit.
Yes.
I
Oh,
reached
that's
out,
when it came up.
yeah.
Okay.
Because we couldn't figure out why.
So we can confirm that she did say that you could do this, but
Absolutely.
that could well, it probably wouldn't matter at the time, but
But the town culvert itself may have created ship and additional
Yeah.
expenses in this.
I mean, that's my opinion right now. It's the one I'm saying, I mean, I'm not saying agreeing or disagreeing, but I'm seeing this. Perhaps that we
We had an additional financial expense too, because during the replat meeting, Mr. Berger, who is the owner of the property next door, had said that our fence didn't meet the setback requirement, so he opposed the replat. And so even though those really didn't need to be tied together, they sort of were. But we would have done the right thing anyway, but I just want to head off any information that may be coming from that direction, because then we spent an additional $630 bringing the fence back into compliance and adding $350 of landscaping so that his really long, tall dandelion yard wouldn't come over into ours, because the fence was sort of preventing that. So we brought the fence back after a meeting that we initiated with him and Jenny, and that's when she was out of the property to go over options for making it compliant. We made it compliant, even though in the meeting, he said he would be happy with one section being taken back. And Bernie Feeney did confirm that he heard that same thing, because he was standing with us, that he would be happy if we took one section out. It already had one section missing, so we took a second section out, but we wanted to make sure we were in compliance. So we took it a step farther and looked at how to address the 50%. And we came up with 3 scenarios and had 2 landscapers. He did not want to do the work. He said he did not want to do it, to get somebody else to do it. We had 2 landscapers come out and look at the 3 options that were suggested, and they made it compliant with the line of our house, which is 25 feet back. So we put that additional funding into resolve a situation we didn't create. It was there before, and we had no knowledge of it before. So we made that right away, and sent it to him and Jenny and the surveyor to let everybody know we did it. I got an okay from him. I'm on vacation. 2.5 weeks later, he said, "Why didn't you go with my suggestion?"
If I may,
Yeah.
from a building commissioner's perspective, neighbor agreements don't preclude our ordinances.
Okay,
right,
Our ordinances, if you and your neighbor can't arbitrarily decide to change setbacks or any of the parts of the
oh
ordinance.
no, this group, I think the town council told me we needed to do that before they would approve the search.
this meeting, we were in this meeting and it was recorded. And each statement that parties that are here made were recorded. And I will ask if it is in compliance now
Yes,
from both parties. Are both parties acceptable with?
No.
And
I'll check.
And I'm fine, it doesn't have to come into compliance till the agreement of 8/31. The building inspector can measure at that point and make a determination.
I'll get with the
Fine.
county inspector, and
county.
county inspector still does, even though it's fence will do the certificate of occupancy and closing the building. Absolutely.
But
So-
just so you know, it's all recorded as far as what was
Yeah,
said.
no,
as far as-
and that's
I
why I
understand why
wanted
he
the
didn't, he's a
additional,
neighbor, I know why he wouldn't work on it.
yeah.
I mean, you know,
Well, somebody in the
I
meeting
hate
had
to-
suggested that, I think, was it you that, somebody.
So I just
suggested that.
Just for me, is this tied into this, how's this tied into?
It's
with
a
this?
financial incursion that,
Oh.
was based on that meeting, so
Okay.
we, you know, we incurred a lot of financial expenses to try to make everything right to
yeah, I understand.
move
And
forward.
honestly, I mean, not being disrespectful or anything, but we can't even consider what you spend, whatever somebody
Okay.
spends. Funny. I mean, financially, I mean, we got this custom money, everybody be charging us of, taking bribes and everything else. I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's part of the. Okay, bring that up.
But
That's like, I mean, that's like, I wonder what that's like.
What is our requirement to abide by what the current, at the time, the current
Yeah, at the time, the current.
town manager and building commissioner said?
That was $1 million question.
Well, I know it has been only before. So and as far as whether this board still has right to vote in your discretion. Part of what you say. So I mean, you've heard what was said, you,
Right.
whatever. And I don't know what else to, I'm not gonna try and influence or discourage, so.
I just didn't know if they had decision power over us if they felt it was in their purview.
When you say they,
Jenny. at the
Jenny
time.
and Chuck,
the answer is no.
That
that was it, what? Let me understand the question.
they don't have,
The building commissioner and the town manager cannot overrule the board of zoning appeals.
Right. But
and
when
that's
that's,
something that they think that doesn't mean.
but they're not overruling.
The answer to that is usually not. There are areas in the ordinance that allow for decisions to be made.
And is this an area that would allow for that kind of decision to be made, in your opinion?
No,
And she was acting. the
She was
way-
acting in your position
Yes.
that you've got
She
now.
wasn't just.
And both parties that gave you that information at the time were acting building
Yeah.
commissioners.
But why would Chuck be involved then? She's saying,
Chuck was building
I know,
commissioner at the
but-
time.
but at the time when this
There's two different,
problem, okay,
I
that's
talked to Chuck in October.
she got Chuck in October,
Verified.
and that was prior to the ordinance change.
Oh, okay.
All right,
And
Or
then
amendment.
Chuck was gone and then
and then when
Jenny.
Chuck was gone, then Jenny Monroe was acting building commissioner, interim, whatever what the term is, but both of them had authority as building commissioners. And I know that building commissioners suggestions or whatever they said, to a contractor or home. It's partial binding, I guess, what you're gonna say, but I don't know whether it'd have to be decided in a court of law. But I know that was the discretion that I was told at one time that I probably wouldn't win if the building commissioner is a representation of the town of Culver. And that's what we're looking at. So, under this situation, myself, I think you presented hardship. I'm saying it's enough, not enough, but I think I understand the hardship that could be created by the town of Culver.
Can I get a little bit more clarification on some of the times and dates of some of these things, please?
That would be good for me.
Okay, in October of 2022, you spoke with Chuck.
Thank you.
Okay, when did you apply to have these two properties combined?
At the end of October, right after meeting with him.
Okay. When did you next have a conversation with anyone regarding this property and what you intend to do? And who was it with?
You want to include the surveyor or? No. The replat is complete and at the end of February, the
Okay,
replat.
all right, let me back it up. Okay, in October of 2022, you spoke with Chuck.
Yes,
After speaking with Chuck, then you combined the property.
yes,
When was the property that was combined, when was that recorded?
3/30, March 30th.
March 30th,
Yes,
okay, so between October, the end of October, when you went to combine the property and March 30th, why was there 5 months between when you did this and when it was recorded?
because of the surveyor. It took him 2 or 3 months to complete he was very backed up. We were,
When did you next, okay,
so
I understand. When
Yeah.
did when did you speak with Jenny?
at the beginning of March,
At the beginning of March?
yeah.
Okay, so.
Not the fence. We met, yeah. No, that's when she came to the property.
Let me finish my question, okay? When did you speak with Jenny regarding the combination of your properties? You
That
mentioned
same day, so early March. Do you want me to
Early
get a date? I can,
early March, you
Yeah.
spoke with Jenny,
yes,
okay? And what Jenny told you was the same thing as what Chuck told you?
yes.
So anywhere between 10 and 20 days after you spoke with Jenny, anywhere from 10 to 20 days, since you said early March, is when it finally got recorded.
Mhm.
So that's the date that you applied for. The actual combining the property is when you submitted it. It was recorded the day that you actually submitted it, since you would have had to submit survey results. Is that correct?
We submitted it here in the January 20th or February 20th meeting. I'm just saying, maybe the February, we submitted it in the plan commission meeting. And and then it was delayed
Why was it delayed?
because of the fence. Because we had it was not.
Okay, and now that's where I get a little confused. I'm not asking about the fence, okay? I'm asking about the
Those
combination of
things-
this property,
Yeah.
okay?
But
Right,
those
so-
two things were tied together. And so Jenny had to go show that it was taken care of for Barry to sign off on it. So she did that and then it got recorded.
Okay, so January. Again, you did what?
Presented the replat.
To the plan commission?
Yes.
And the plan commission approved it
Approved it. And also, I
in January.
believe it would, but I mean, we have to go back minutes.
And Barry was on vacation or out of town or something and
Okay, so it's replatted in January.
Yeah.
And you had the surveyor's information in order to get it approved by the plan commission to be replatted.
yes,
Okay. So then would the next thing be after January, you saw Jenny?
yes,
Okay. And then 10 to 20 days after you saw Jenny is when you finally took it to the county to get it recorded.
yes,
Um,
that's when it was signed off.
so my question would be, once it was approved by the plan commission in January, why then did you wait until the end of March to formally do this?
Because we had to get landscapers to come out to fix the fence, take pictures, show everybody, get everybody to agree and have Barry sign off on it.
clarify just a little bit on this, but I know that the fence was an issue from prior owners. And that this was included as far as getting the fence because it was non-conforming. In order to do everything else, the fence had to be done,
The fence had, so,
be conforming before everything else was.
okay, so
I
would
mean,
it be,
I'm not saying that right, but I know it was tied in with the same conversation as far as, but
And you gave them until the end of August.
and gave them until the end of August.
okay,
It wasn't, they didn't have to have that in order to record anything.
No.
They had until the end of August to bring it into compliance.
when, since that was brought up, when was the fence put up?
In March. It was.
March
it was
of-
Cut down. You
Oh,
mean
after-
originally? I don't know.
2019.
2019, the fence was put up. And it was ordered in January to be changed. Is that correct? Am I correct in my assumption there?
No, this is a long story.
Yeah.
There was the prior owners of the property that put the fence up.
Okay,
They sold the property prior to the fence becoming conforming. And so there was no way of trying to try and make the sellers fix the non-conforming and the buyers fixing the non-conforming. And it was, I don't know how to put it in words.
okay, all right.
It was issues with the previous building commissioner.
Right.
He dropped the ball multiple
Okay.
times.
Okay. So,
So we were.
now it's July, 6 months after the decision was made about taking the fence down and replotting this. So I'm just wondering why the fence wasn't taken down if it was known to be an issue.
It was within 2 months.
But I've heard that you have until August 31st to do that.
I don't know, I didn't speak for him. He may not like the way we executed it. We had 3 ideas. They went with,
That was not a legal agreement or.
okay,
Now,
Well,
I heard
I think
from our building commissioner that you have a deadline of August 31st to
Correct.
remove the fence. Is that correct?
Yeah.
To remove it means completely take it out.
No.
You're correct,
Conforming.
non-conforming.
Okay, what is the issue with it being non-conforming?
I haven't inspected it.
Huh?
I can't answer that.
Okay,
I don't know yet until I get out there.
so Jenny's understanding was that she couldn't get Barry to sign off on it, who wasn't at that meeting, until we demonstrated that it was fixed. So we demonstrated that it was fixed. We had to wait for contractors. So we waited for the surveyor. That's what took some time. Then we had a meeting. Then we waited for landscapers, although we got everybody out there and working as fast as we could. We sent pictures. Jenny got Barry to sign off on it. We thought he was okay with it because we didn't hear from him for a while. And he said, okay, I'll, look at it when I get back. Didn't hear from them. So that moved forward slowly. The recording happened 3:30 after Jenny got all the signatures on it. So that was in March. Then we started working with the contractors, and June 12th, we were gonna we were ready to go. June 12th, we were gonna start. But we had to wait till your meeting, so, because we didn't know we had to go in front of, we thought we didn't need to come in front of the BZA.
This is all interesting. I think it's movable. I don't think this has anything to do with what we're trying to.
well, I agree, but he was the one that introduced this stuff. And so that's,
My biggest question from, I guess, me signing the legal documents, whether or not Jenny and
Have the
had
authority.
the authority to say that, because I have a hard time marking agree on all these other ones. Like, you know what I mean? It's-
Right, I know what you're saying. I mean, but this is part of the, I guess, clarification of why. Maybe it's because it's confusing. Probably it's confusion or it's third either way, but.
I thought she had authority to tell me that we didn't need to come and request something. And I thought Chuck had the authority when he told me that the zoning for the setback had changed for R1 and that we wouldn't need to come in front of the board. So we were just told from two very credible people that we didn't need to go in front of the board and that we would need it without it.
I mean, in your defense, we do request for people to meet with the building commissioner, and the building commissioner does look at property and tell them whether they need a variance or not. It is that authority that they have.
And it's also identified when
Right,
to apply for a building permit.
So I feel like we did that times two.
Without us approving a variance, they'll never get a permit.
they get permit, but they'll have to move the building to a 20-foot, 25 setback. But anybody else in the public have anything?
Just a question, are they asking for one variance or two?
One.
This is a corner
The
lot.
10-foot setbacks.
This is a corner lot. So they would be asking for two rear setback variances, correct?
Two years.
It's a corner lot, so it has two front
We
yards and
talking
two
about
rear
two
yards.
front yards.
No, it has two front yards, a rear yard and side yard.
That's a different interpretation for, and I'm not protesting. I'm fine with them doing this. I just wanted to make sure it's done correctly. And we've looked at this before where there's two front yards, we make that determination because there's a street, and opposite the front yard is a rear yard, so there's two rear yards.
Right.
So it would be
I'm not saying,
Two variances is what I was
yeah, I'm
questioning.
not saying two front yards on this.
It's on a corner lot, so it has two front yards.
So
Right, on the other
Street.
side. Not where the.
our corner lots are going to have what's considered two front yards.
Yeah.
Correct, but I'm saying where the structure is being proposed is not on the corner.
I'm saying because it has two front yards, it has two rear yards.
Right.
And I'm fine with you giving them the variance, but I'm just making sure it's cleaned up correctly, that it's two variances for both rear yards, is what I was asking.
But your address is Lakeshore. And if you're saying Lakeview, then is the other corner.
But
Right.
by definition, still, the way it's been, and I've been acting is we have two front yards, a side yard, and one rear yard.
And you're basing it on the addresses for the front yard, the official front yard is?
I'm basing it on the definition of frontage, which is the property line abutting a street or road right of way. In the case of property abutting, that's abutting water. So the property line abutting the street or road right of way. So if you're on a corner lot, you have two parts of your house that would be frontage.
The frontage, but you still have two that are required by ordinance to have the 25-foot setback. But you're not considering both of them front yards.
Yes.
So don't be confused with the front yard. Because there is.
Okay.
I mean, you can't,
Again, I'm not protesting, and I'm just wanting to make sure it's cleaned up correctly, so.
So, Steve, in your opinion, then, since it's you've got two front yards, a rear yard, and a side yard, correct?
Correct.
Then how is it determined which is the rear yard line and which is the side yard line?
The rear yard is going to be opposite of the street address of the front door.
Opposite of the drill? Okay, so
So if you're
the rear yard would be.
If you're front on Lake Shore,
Mhm.
then the back of your house. Your address is Lake Shore, the back of the house is opposite of that.
Okay,
Based
so
on
that would be
street
the line that
address.
runs, the rear line that runs east and west.
For the backyard,
Yes,
correct.
okay, so the side yard would be the line that runs north to south along Mr. Berger's property.
Yes,
Okay. All right, and currently that property would have to have a 25-foot rear setback and a 10-foot side yard setback.
yes.
Yeah, within that, okay. So then I guess to answer my question is where you want to place the garage now 10 feet from the side yard as we just,
Yes, that's why we joined
Okay.
properties. Yep, to meet that.
so then is there a need for request for two variances? Then,
For saying no.
okay,
I think it says.
there's only a need for a variance for the rear yard setback then. Okay,
And that's what the legal notice also said.
yes.
Anybody else have anything? State your name and address, please.
Patty Stalling, 506 East Lake Shore Drive, 2 houses away from this particular home. Recently, our company was developing across the street from our home and their home. And we got some faulty information from both of the building and the commissioner and the city manager, which these people took to court. And they were told the town was wrong, even though, so that cost a lot of money and a lot of time delayed. And so I wonder, doesn't an ordinance supersede information you get from the building commissioner or the city manager?
Which way did the court rule?
Against the city? They said you have to,
Come back to the BZA.
you had to take several more steps, which we were told we didn't have to do. So we had to come back in another year and a half and take all the steps over again. So,
Now we've got one case where it was objected to what they did, and another case where they ruled in favor of the town.
What case did they rule in favor of?
Yeah.
They didn't rule it, it's our lawyer
they ruled against the city.
conceded knowing that town, but not win. Now let's do it, that and arguing whether or not person didn't have authority and person did have authority wasn't the one that was doing the talking.
Wasn't Jenny the town manager at the time and not the building commissioner?
She was,
But when it started,
when it started, she was town manager. By the time you met,
when we
Later
met
on.
with her, she was the acting building.
so she was close at that time. She was town manager. And
No, I'm just saying in their case, I didn't know if Jenny was that, when theirs started, I thought she was the town manager.
yeah, I don't really
That
want to
may-
get into what you got dealt with at the same time, but I mean, was it an authorization to do or an authorization to not do?
It was a, well,
Was an authorization to do.
To do?
They, in fact, it was the town manager and town president's recommendation to do it this way. And the ruling turned out to be that they were incorrect. So this is exactly what you're talking about right now.
And who was correct?
The state statute supersedes ordinances.
of which the neighbors took to court to say that was true, and they won the case. So it had to be taken back and redone the way the court said. So we had faulty information also.
Were their variance requests approved? By the committee?
We're not gonna get.
Okay,
We're not gonna go through that. That's why I didn't want to know what it is. Damage.
Mrs. Northrop joined in that. suit
Keep a
too.
lot of discretion in this,
Yeah.
so. Nobody has anything, I guess we can go to finding a fact. See, All right, number one, general welfare, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, moral, and general welfare of the community.
Agreed.
Godwin,
Agree.
Agree.
and Chair. Adjacent properties, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included, the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Mr. Malcolm,
Agreed.
Godwin,
Agree.
Mr. Chris,
Agree.
and the chair. Practical difficulty, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in use of the property. The situation shall not be self-imposed nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction on economic gain. Mr. Mel,
Disagree.
Mr. Osborne,
Disagree.
Mr. Chris,
Disagree.
chair agrees. So this information right there, you've got four people here. And anybody that says no has to vote no. Approve that. Right. And we can take it to a vote if you want to, or you can withdraw, bring back another time. By going ahead with vote, if the board votes no against this, does not agree with it, you'll have a year before you can make the move.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Sure.
Okay. So a driveway with a pad is allowed? It doesn't need a variance request? Yes, sir.
Commissioner, when you want to come in.
Correct. As long as you have a building permit for it to put the driveway.
And the permit doesn't have any restrictions on variance? Okay. And it sounds like a shed, no greater than 120 feet. That's
Square
right,
feet.
120 square feet.
It still may affect. It may affect setback, but it probably will, because you won't need a building permit for a structure less than 120 square feet.
If it doesn't affect setbacks, is that what you're saying?
If you put a shed in less than 120 square feet, you don't have to have a building permit, and you don't have to notify anybody. So.
Okay. And what other types of structures do not need the required setback? Like a pergola, a carport?
Those are all structures. Those are all structures, so they will have to follow the setback requirement.
And then tell me about the appeal process.
Appeal process, you would just send me a letter within 10 days that you want to appeal it. And we would get it on the agenda for the plan commission.
I think I will withdraw.
Withdraw.
You all want to put pictures for your records? Or can I get them?
You can get them back. You withdrew, we have to. Might want to bring back next time. Thank you. Thank you for bringing those up. All right, any new business? Do new business? Anybody have any new business? You want to do your commission report?
I have nothing to report to you.
Evan? Next meeting,
Any cases for anything coming up or don't know yet?
Possibly one case coming up. It's not completed yet.
so we could probably have another one.
Next month.
One next month. Okay. Doesn't think it's gonna be a flooded room.
Possibly one at this time.
Oh, right, okay. All right. All right, then, next meeting will be at 6:30 PM, Thursday, August 17th. It's read. This time I will entertain a motion. Sure. All in favor?
We have a motion.
I did. Nelson.
I'll for 1 second. Sure. Yeah. That's something interesting.